There's a reason phones get locked in pouches the moment you step inside.
There was a separate kitchen on her property. Stainless steel. Private entrance. No security cameras inside.
No cameras, no witnesses, no proof.
Once you shared that secret, whatever you believe you'd consumed, you are bound to the group. No one betrays a circle that can destroy them.
And here's the part that should terrify you.
Just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up! I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
That was said on live television, in front of the most powerful people in Hollywood, and not a single person laughed. Because what happens at Hollywood's most exclusive parties isn't entertainment. It's allegedly initiation. And today, we're pulling back the curtain on everything they never wanted you to see. The Hollywood party secrets they don't want you to know. Here's what most people don't understand about Hollywood. The version you see, the red carpets, the flashing cameras, the after parties covered by entertainment news, that's the show. That's the performance designed for public consumption. The real Hollywood, the one that actually runs the industry, that operates completely in the dark. We're talking about parties that don't exist on any calendar, gatherings with no paparazzi, no press releases, no Instagram stories, events where the guest list is so protected that even being seen near the venue can end careers. And the rules for attending these gatherings, they're not suggestions. Before you even step through the door, you're often required to leave your phone at the entrance, not just turned off, but physically surrendered, sealed in specialized pouches so you can't secretly record anything. You sign confidentiality agreements that lawyers have spent months crafting, documents so airtight that violating them doesn't just mean legal trouble, it means professional extinction. And the biggest rule of all, you never, ever talk about what you saw inside. Now, officially, the industry will tell you this is about privacy. Celebrities deserve to let loose without worrying about ending up on TMZ the next morning. But here's the question nobody in Hollywood wants you to ask. If these parties are just innocent fun, why do they need legal fortresses built around them? Why does every single guest need to be legally bound to silence before they can even see what's happening?
It wasn't framed as cruelty. It was framed as tradition.
Tradition. That's the word that keeps appearing when insiders describe what allegedly happens behind those closed doors. And once you understand what that tradition actually means, what these gatherings allegedly involved, you're going to understand why one man spent years standing on Hollywood's biggest stage, dropping warnings disguised as jokes. Act 2. The Man Who Told the Truth. Ricky Gervais, British comedian, writer, creator, and apparently the only person in Hollywood brave enough, or crazy enough, to say what everyone else was thinking. When the Golden Globes asked him to host, they probably expected the usual celebrity roast. A few gentle jabs, some self-deprecating humor about the industry, the kind of comedy that makes millionaires feel edgy without actually challenging anything. That's not what they got.
When they said, do you want to host the Golden Globes? All that stuff I said in the show was true. I said, I'm going to write my own jokes. Right? And I thought, who do I pander to? The 200 richest people in the room, or the 200 million people watching at home who aren't winning awards, who aren't millionaires?
200 million people watching at home. That was his audience. Not the celebrities in the room, not the studio heads, not the producers sitting in the front row with their fake smiles and clenched jaws. The people at home. The ones who had no idea what was actually happening at those parties, the ones who'd never been invited, never signed the NDAs, never seen what happened when the cameras turned off. And what Ricky did, year after year, was give those 200 million people a glimpse behind the curtain.
You had to make your own way here in your own plane, didn't you?
That line hit different. And if you go back and watch that moment, actually watch the room, you'll see exactly why.
Asking you back to do those awards, and the actual actors and actresses in the audience, they look terrified at the idea of you mentioning their name. Do you feel that?
Why do you care? That is the question, isn't it? If you've done nothing wrong, if those parties are just innocent gatherings of famous people blowing off steam, why does the mere mention of your name from a comedian make you freeze like you've just been caught? Why does the room go silent? Why do the cameras cut away? Why do publicists start sweating? Because these people knew. They knew exactly what Ricky was circling, and they had spent decades, decades, making sure nobody on the outside ever figured it out.
He's using comedy to say the quiet parts loud, to slip the truth right past you before you even realize what just happened.
The quiet parts loud. That's exactly what he was doing. And the 200 people in that room, they never forgave him for it. Now, we need to talk about Ellen. And I want you to stay with me here because this is where things get genuinely unsettling. Ellen DeGeneres built her entire public image on being warm, approachable, America's daytime sweetheart, the woman who danced into your living room every afternoon, the woman who told everyone to be kind. But behind that image, allegedly, something very different was happening. According to accounts that started circulating after the Epstein files began dropping, Ellen wasn't just attending Hollywood secret parties, she was allegedly hosting them.
There was a separate kitchen on her property, stainless steel, private entrance, no security cameras inside. The chef handled the sauces, the garnishes, the staging, but she insisted on doing the hard part herself. Said it grounded her, said it made the energy right.
A separate kitchen, private entrance, no security cameras. Now, let that sink in for a moment. We're in an era where celebrities have security footage covering every inch of their property, where home invasions have made surveillance standard for anyone with wealth. Yet, according to this account, there was one room specifically designed to have no recording. Why? What happens in a room that needs to exist outside of any documentation?
She wore a chef's hat like it was a crown.
A crown. That single detail tells you everything about the psychology at play here. This wasn't about food. This wasn't about hospitality. This was about power, about dominance, about being the person who controlled what everyone else consumed. And the guest lists for these alleged gatherings, they weren't random.
The dumplings were her signature.
All right, so saying that the dumplings were something that she'd created and that inside of the dumplings, the filling was actually human flesh.
Folded carefully, almost lovingly. Served at private dinners first. Studio heads, rising stars, political donors. She would watch as they ate. Not hungrily, not nervously, but with that sociopathic calm. Studying their faces.
Studio heads, rising stars, political donors. The people who control what gets made, the people who decide whose career takes off and whose gets buried, the people with enough money and influence to make problems disappear. All allegedly gathered in one room, all allegedly consuming something together, all allegedly becoming part of something that couldn't be undone. Here's where the story gets darker, because according to these accounts, the parties weren't just about consumption.
Once you shared that secret, whatever you believe you'd consumed, you were bound to the group. No one betrays a circle that can destroy them.
Read that again. Let it actually register. This is allegedly how the most powerful people in entertainment kept each other silent for decades. Not just through NDAs, although those existed, not through legal threats alone, although those were constant, but through shared participation in something so extreme that speaking out meant destroying yourself right alongside everyone else. Think about it. If everyone at the table is guilty of the same thing, who's going to be the first to talk? Who's going to risk exposing what they were part of just to take someone else down? The answer is nobody. That's the genius of it. That's why phones get sealed in pouches. That's why cameras are banned. That's why confidentiality agreements exist. Not to protect privacy, to protect complicity. And this connects directly back to what Ricky Gervais was warning about. He wasn't just calling out individual bad actors. He was pointing at the entire architecture, the whole machinery of silence.
I'm going to write my own jokes, right? And I thought, who do I pander to? The 200 richest people in the room or the 200 million people watching at home?
He chose the 200 every single time because he understood that the 200 in the room weren't just celebrities, they were allegedly participants in a system designed specifically to make sure the truth never got out. Now, the accounts also describe something that allegedly happened not at a private party, but in plain sight.
She even brought the dumplings to a few tapings of her show. Homemade, she said with that psychopathic grin. Audience members lined up for samples. crew grabbed them between seconds.
If this account is true, and I want to be clear, these are unverified allegations, but if this is true, it represents something almost incomprehensible. The idea that someone could allegedly bring evidence of their alleged crimes directly onto a television set, hand it out to unsuspecting people, and smile while doing it. But here's the thing about power at that level. It breeds a kind of invincibility complex. When you've gotten away with things for years, when you're surrounded by people who are just as guilty as you are, when the whole system is designed to protect you, you start believing you're untouchable. You start testing the limits, seeing what you can get away with. And then think about this moment.
Hey, Jeffrey, how are you? How's everybody doing?
At the Oscars, in front of everyone, calling out Jeffrey by name first, then pivoting directly to food. Was it a joke? Maybe. Was it a bit? Or was it something else? Because when you stack it next to the whistleblower accounts, next to the separate kitchen with no cameras, next to the whisper network that's been growing louder every single week since those files started dropping, the food stops being a coincidence. There's an alleged belief system that runs through these accounts, something that explains why these gatherings allegedly went so far beyond normal Hollywood excess.
She believed consumption was transformation, that youth could be taken in, that vitality could be absorbed. She talked about ancient rites, about elites throughout history who understood what the masses did.
Ancient rites, elites throughout history. This isn't a new idea. The obsession with consuming youth, with literally ingesting vitality, is one of the oldest power rituals documented in human history. From blood countnesses to fountain of youth legends to modern-day wellness obsessions that cost thousands of dollars. The belief that you can take youth from someone else. And according to the whistleblowers who have come forward since the files started releasing, this wasn't just folklore to the people at the top of Hollywood. This was allegedly practice.
It wasn't framed as cruelty. It was framed as tradition.
Tradition. The word keeps coming back because when you frame something as tradition, as something that's always been done, something that the powerful have always understood, you remove the moral question. It's not wrong, it's just what's always happened. And that framing, that's allegedly what made these parties possible. That's allegedly what made people who should have known better participate in things they never should have touched. Because once you're in the room, once you've signed the NDA, once you've consumed what everyone else is consuming, you're not an outsider anymore. You're not someone who could blow the whistle. You're part of the tradition now. Now we have to talk about Anne Heche, because this is where everything connects. Anne Heche and Ellen DeGeneres were one of Hollywood's most famous couples in the late 90s, openly gay at a time when that was genuinely career-threatening. On every magazine cover, celebrated, scrutinized, and eventually devastatingly separated under circumstances that were never fully explained. And then Anne Heche died in a car crash in 2022, a crash the whole world watched happen in real time. Now, the official investigation attributed her death to the circumstances reported at the time, but there are accounts circulating, unverified, contested accounts, that claim something very different. That language, that's not the language of a relationship, that's the language of a ritual. And according to some accounts, Anne allegedly started pushing back, started asking questions, started wanting out.
And shit hit the fan.
I mean, it sounds so unbelievable to think that someone that's so well known could be doing all of this crazy stuff behind doors.
So unbelievable. That's exactly why it allegedly worked for so long, because when someone tells you that the dancing daytime talk show host is allegedly involved in something this dark, your first instinct is to laugh it off. That's the protection. The absurdity itself is the shield. But here's where it gets even more disturbing. There's allegedly a documentary that Anne was connected to, something called Children of the Machine, an alleged underground project about trafficking networks, about how the biggest names in Hollywood protect each other.
And stop. The team's still underground, finishing it, making sure it drops no matter what. She didn't go through hell for nothing.
She didn't go through hell for nothing. Whether or not you believe the most extreme claims in these accounts, the timing of her death, right as she was allegedly working on a project designed to expose the party system, is something that deserves to be asked about. Act 8, The Great Escape. Now let's zoom out, because something very strange has been happening in Hollywood since those Epstein files started dropping. Ellen DeGeneres is currently in the UK. She left America, and according to multiple sources online, it wasn't about politics. One person says that Ellen didn't flee America because of Trump. She fled because she knew that he would release the files. But she's not alone. Look at the pattern. Tom Hanks, radio silence, canceled appearances.
Hanks canceled several appearances that were going to involve meet and greets with the audience and a full-on question and answer segment. It turns out that Hanks' entire team advised him to not attend these events in light of his recent comments about Trump and the DOJ after releasing over 3 million Epstein files. Now, the strategy for now is to essentially hide from fans.
Hide from fans. Think about that. One of the most beloved actors in American history suddenly being advised to avoid any situation where the public could ask him questions directly. Oprah Winfrey, the woman who spent 30 years making sure the whole world could hear her voice, suddenly very, very comfortable staying out of the public eye. The same woman who enthusiastically championed John of God on her platform. The man who was later convicted of running a global baby trafficking operation and handed nearly 400 years in prison.
Questions surrounding Oprah are not small. Epstein survivors have allegedly come forward and referred to her as the broker.
The broker. If that's true, and these are allegations, not proven facts, but if that's true, it would explain why someone with Oprah's media power would suddenly choose silence over spotlight. Richard Gere sold his Connecticut compound at a loss, a multi-millionaire selling below market value 1 month before key Epstein deadlines. Eva Longoria slashing the price on her Beverly Hills mansion. And Rosie O'Donnell, she moved to Ireland and said something that should make everyone pause.
Say, I'm never coming back unless something is chasing.
Something is chasing them. And Ricky Gervais, standing on that stage year after year, firing shots disguised as punchlines, he knew exactly what that something was. Act 9, The Disinformation Problem. Now, here's where I need to be honest with you about something, because this story exists in a very dangerous space. After the Epstein scandal broke, the internet became obsessed with uncovering hidden networks among powerful elites. And that obsession created something complicated. On one hand, real victims have come forward, real evidence has emerged, real accountability has happened in some cases. But on the other hand, that same obsession created a breeding ground for something else entirely. Today, with AI tools, anyone can create fake voice recordings, edited videos, fabricated leaked conversations that sound completely authentic. Within hours, these clips can reach millions of viewers, and by the time fact-checkers respond, the rumor has already gone viral. So, how do you separate the real whistleblowers from the fabricated leaks? How do you know which accounts are genuine and which are designed to muddy the waters? Here's the uncomfortable truth. You often can't, not with certainty. And that uncertainty, that's actually useful to the people who want this all to stay buried. Because when everything could be fake, nothing can be proven. When AI can generate any clip, any confession, any leaked document, the real evidence gets lost in the noise. That's why the phone pouches matter. That's why the NDAs matter. That's why the no camera rules matter. Not because they prevent leaks, but because they make any leak deniable, any witness dismissible, any accusation unprovable. But then, here's what the party system didn't account for. The files. 3 million documents released, with 70 to 80% still sealed. And what's already out has sent celebrities scrambling across continents, selling mansions at a loss, moving to countries with complicated extradition treaties, avoiding any public appearance where someone might ask the wrong question. What we know, Ellen DeGeneres' name appears in flight logs connected to Epstein. Aaron Rodgers on Joe Rogan stated that Ellen's show set bore a striking resemblance to the temple on Epstein's island. She called Jeffrey Epstein out by name at the Oscars while distributing food to the audience. Her former DJ, Twitch, tweeted about pizza consumption in numbers that nobody has ever been able to explain. And then there are the whistleblowers, the accounts of the separate kitchen, the private dinners, the dumplings, the circle of complicity.
She believed consumption was transformation, that youth could be taken in, that vitality could be absorbed.
Tradition among elites who allegedly understood what the masses didn't, who believed that the key to staying powerful, staying young, staying at the top was something the rest of us would never know about. Act 11, The Reckoning. So what actually happens at Hollywood's secret parties? After everything we've covered today, here's what we can say. We know the parties exist. We know phones are banned. We know NDAs are signed. We know cameras aren't allowed. We know that multiple celebrities have fled the country since the Epstein style started dropping. We know that Ricky Gervais spent years on Hollywood's biggest stage telling the room to their faces that they were exposed.
Just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up! I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
And we know that not a single person in that room laughed it off, because it wasn't a joke, it was a warning. The question isn't whether these parties exist. The question is what's happening inside them that requires this level of secrecy, this level of legal protection, this level of systemic silence. And until those files are fully unsealed, all of them, not just 20 or 30%, we're left with whistleblower accounts, with patterns of behavior, with celebrities acting exactly like people who have something to hide. The truth is, very few outsiders have ever seen what goes on inside. And the ones who have, well, you've heard what allegedly happens to people who try to speak out.
She didn't go through hell for nothing.
The files are still dropping, the walls are still closing in, and somewhere out there, there's allegedly a documentary still being finished. The story isn't over, not even close. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Which name do you think will be the biggest reveal when those files fully open? And if you're not subscribed yet, you're going to want to be here when this story reaches its next chapter. Because when 70% of those documents are still sealed, imagine what's still coming. I'll see you in the next one.